Lacrosse community. My name's Ryan Berns. I'm the founder of the Lacrosse Leadership Institute. It's our mission to empower all those that love lacrosse, to recognize the skills you gain from the sport, to ultimately live your best life possible. We're so fortunate to be joined by London Booker, grew up in Rochester, New York, was able to play collegiate lacrosse, and now is impacting his community, providing the urban youth and those in Rochester the opportunity to play through ROC E6. London, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. For those in our community that aren't quite familiar with your story or how you got into lacrosse, can you share with us how did your lacrosse journey start?
I sure can. So just for a little background, if you aren't aware of New York State geography, Rochester, New York is smack dab in between two really big cities, Syracuse and Buffalo. And we like to consider ourselves a big little city. But to be completely honest, I would say Rochester is a hotbed here in upstate New York for the sport of lacrosse. But the way I transitioned into the sport of lacrosse was done through a camp. It was a camp experience, and it all goes back to the existence of ROC E6 and what it is. But ROC E6 is our inner city nonprofit lacrosse program that seeks to provide opportunities both for lacrosse and then numerous amounts of other areas. But it initially started out as a camp seeking to provide academic enrichment and then access and exposure to all of the exposure to all of the sports that aren't traditionally played in the urban setting. So the camp didn't have football, it didn't have basketball, but it did have wrestling, it had lacrosse, it had soccer. There were some days we did tennis. But back in 2006, I had a chance to attend that summer camp, and that was the first time I picked up a stick. And in that moment, the RCSD, the public school system that I was attending, there was no lacrosse. So I went to that summer camp summer after summer after summer. And then 10th grade, instead of attending the camp, I worked for the camp. And because there was no opportunities in the city of Rochester, my mom packed up and said, we're going out to the suburbs. And I was able to play and ended up graduating, playing 3 years of high school. So I didn't play for a real team until 10th grade, but I was able to make the most of the situation, go on to play all 4 years Division II lacrosse at Roberts Wesleyan. So.
Oh, London, so cool that you didn't necessarily have that conventional team to play on growing up until high school. I think that may be pretty similar to our experience here in Arizona. Sometimes you don't have those programs, even though it's probably pretty foreign for those in Rochester. But it sounds like you get into lacrosse early, fall in love, and are able to play through college. And I know you're doing a big part impacting the youth now. Can you share a little bit about what you're up to?
Yeah, so the functionality of ROC E6 used to be a summer camp. As time began to go on and my introduction into the program, Archie Allen and Art Alvet, who are the founder and the president, said, oh, young men and young women like London, kids like London want lacrosse, let's create it. And in 2007, I believe, we created the first ever youth lacrosse team for ROC E6. And so kids in the city had access. And then you take that, in that moment, we decided to take the 6 E's of ROC E6, which were education, exercise, exposure, equity, empowerment, and ethics, and then use those as a guiding force to help make a change in our community. And we did that. And now the year is 2022, and instead of being a participant in the camp or a player on the team, I'm currently the vice president. And so we currently provide lacrosse opportunities to over 100 student athletes. We have young men away in prep schools. We have young men and women getting ready to transition into prep schools. In addition to that, we were a crucial part of being the first ever, being a part and helping grow the first ever Division I lacrosse recruit out of the city of Rochester. So that was a huge feat for Jameer Warfield. Just this year, he is a current freshman at SUNY Albany. So we've been working incredibly hard, both on the field, off the field, and our staff has just bought in, and it's created a really great environment for lacrosse to develop here. So.
Oh, that's so cool. I think different pinnacles arise when we're able to put in a lot of work and let kids play at the highest level possible. But for you, whether it's your playing, coaching, empowering, what is your pinnacle lacrosse moment?
My pinnacle lacrosse moment is attached directly to ROC E6 in the year's 2016, and it's April, so it's lacrosse season here. We're about 3 weeks into ROC E6 season, but I'm well into my last ever, college season. And so senior day rolls around, and I believe it might even have been April, May-ish, if I remember correctly, one of the two. But senior day is rolling around, and we are getting ready to go out. The game's against UDC, and my team's pumped. We've had a relatively solid season for the most part. It could have been a little better, but we know that today's the last day we have a chance to play on our home field. So we're going out. We're really working to give it our best. But during warmups, I saw a bus roll in. Didn't know what was going on, but a bus had rolled in. I was like, why is a yellow bus here? The other school didn't ride in on a yellow bus. I think nothing of it. Game's just going on. Throughout the game, I just hear more noise than usual. Like the crowd's just more rowdy. Maybe it's senior day. It could be what it is. But the game goes on. I can't remember the score. I just remember the experience. It was great to be there. But at the end of the game, I see fans pour out of the stands and like run onto the field. But they weren't running in a certain direction. They were running to me. And it was the dopest thing ever, because essentially what happened, that yellow bus was like the entire ROC E6 youth lacrosse program coming to my senior day and being there and like representing, and then coming out to see me and them storming the field. It was great. It was awesome. It was definitely my pinnacle lacrosse moment for sure.
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. That I can imagine why that really fills you with joy, and you can see it in your face. And it
Right. It was definitely an amazing experience for sure.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool because you get to see the impact ultimately
Right.
of what you've been doing for such a long time, and the support's there for you as well. What did it mean for you when everyone came and visited you on senior day?
Uh, it it meant a ton. Um, it meant that all of my efforts are being recognized, but more so I just felt, the love, the love from the lacrosse community that throughout certain moments was not necessarily felt, especially being an African American male in a predominantly white sport. That kind of love and embrace and recognition. Because I definitely, if you look at the stats, I wasn't putting up big numbers, but that kind of recognition, it filled me up for sure. So
I'm glad you brought out love, because that reminds me of the article in USA Lacrosse magazine that talks about the coach's only job is to love the players.
yes, right, exactly. And I stole that from another program that helped develop not only my coaching experience but my playing experience. And FCA Lacrosse, I gotta shout them out every chance I get for sure.
Well, can you share a little bit more then about that experience, and what does leadership mean to you?
Well, I luckily have had a chance to have people have recognized my talent for leadership in a bunch of different ways, and many of them have tried to steer that and foster it. That being FCA, that being ROC E6, just providing opportunities like, would you like to get up and speak? Would you suggest that, what are your opinions on? Would you like to attend this leadership camp? So I've had the fortunate chance to go and attend those things, both through FCA, ROC E6, things with school, and so on and so forth. But in terms of leadership and what it means to me directly, I often think that my experience and my relationships with the people who I am around, as long as there is a positive experience that occurs within our program, I like to liken it back to. So as long as everybody's having fun, and as long as everybody feels safe, And as long as that's being echoed with the play on the field and our actions off of it, I feel that's an immediate and a direct correlation to the not only my leadership, but a leadership that that exists throughout the program. And so it's even better when you get a chance to see the young men and young women who that you in a sense have cultivated. They've saw you, they've looked after you, and they've said, you know, that's kind of who I want to be like. And they reach that pinnacle. They're seniors. We got a great group of young men who, and I see so much of myself in, but I also see that, like, you being in this program and seeing the leaders that we have in it, oh, you're going to be ready to take over the world when you leave here. So it's just it's exciting to see in it. And that's kind of, in a sense, what leadership means to me, for sure. That love piece that transitions into, you know, next steps and sharing that out throughout whatever community you belong to.
It's that servant leadership mindset of those that you're leading, you love them, you empower them, you let them accomplish whatever goals they have, even when that individual doesn't see it within themselves. Mm-hmm. We often talk about the best leaders are able to unlock that untapped potential. They see more in their teams, and ultimately, because of the support, the love, whatever it is, those individuals rise to the highest occasion. And lacrosse is, in my opinion, a metaphor for life. It's a place where we get to practice skills that ultimately we're going to use in the real world, and you're able to become pretty successful doing so. What are some of the skills that you've taken from lacrosse, London, that you're using in day-to-day life, or that you try to teach to your kids?
Yep. Outside of leadership, I would say the number one skill or character trait that I feel like that has been fostered through my participation in lacrosse, in the sport of lacrosse, is accountability. Yes, is it an offshoot of leadership? But I think the notion of accountability is something that's just been fostered through an experience of playing team sports, but also taking it from sports and transitioning it into school, transitioning it into relationships and everywhere else, especially when you are in a field that is related to education. When you work with, young people, being accountable is oftentimes all that they ask of you. If you can be there for me, right, that's all I really need. So I feel like the sport of lacrosse has placed me in different positions to kind of develop that and foster that. And that even comes down to the point where you teach a young person how to cradle for the first time, and then within a few weeks they take that and they transition that into their first ever lacrosse goal. Hey, you taught me how to do something and it worked, and I now have this trust. I can always believe that, like, what comes from you will be true and it'll work. And just having that and having the knowledge that I've been able to gain, and then just transitioning all of that into now being accountable, and then transitioning that into the workplace, and then transitioning it into relationships with others. So I would definitely say accountability for sure.
I love that aspect of accountability, because I think it's in line with integrity. So doing what you say you're going to do, and lacrosse is a place and an environment where you have that. We're so reliant on instant gratification. And when you play a sport, you've got instant feedback. If you don't throw a perfect pass and the ball's dropped, know something was done wrong. If you lose a game, something wasn't prepared well. So there's instant failure within that. For you, how do you overcome failure? Or what's an experience that you've had where you did fail that you had to learn from and then move forward? Right.
I think it all boils down to your experience as to what failure is. And I think as a school counselor, especially with the 7th, 8th, and 9th grade young males, I work at an all-boys charter school here in the city of Rochester. Have this idea of failure, right? In you being the determining factor of what success truly is, has been something that myself personally have been able to kind of rewrite. For example, because there was a time where I look back on my college experience, and changing my major twice made me feel like a failure. Having to stay an extra semester and not graduating with the rest of my buddies, our senior year of college felt like a failure, like something I failed at. But if you remind yourself, or you reconfigure your thought process to align with what success should be in your eyes, it leads to a more comfortable step or process that you can then follow and hopefully succeed in the long run. So yeah, just kind of reconfiguring that notion, and just being mindful of. My players hear this all the time: you determine what success looks like. So
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think that's something that we forget about all the time. And coaching youth lacrosse, you have a lot of masculine energy running around, and what it means to be a man is different for every single person, and what success looks like is so different. But for so long, we've let societal norms dictate what those should be, and that creates a lot of conflict and a lot of emotions in folks that they haven't been comfortable sharing for way too long. And I think now the conversations are starting to bubble up, and we're starting to appreciate more and more how everyone is completely different.
Exactly.
Everyone has total different backstories, and everyone belongs here as well. And I think that's a big thing, having these conversations that I've become more present to. So I appreciate you sharing that and bringing it up, London. And from your seat right now, based off of your life experiences, what you're doing right now to impact the community, what does success mean to you?
So to me, success means my ability to make life easier for everybody coming after me. Right. So whether or not London Booker was a successful coach, mentor, counselor, won't be recognized until I'm gone. It won't, because the impact will be felt in the kids, right? The kids, and I'm very aware of that. Like, I'm only 27, and I'm we're born with our number of days on this earth, and so it's just my hope that I just use all of them to the best of my ability. But in doing so, I'm successful when I know that the grandchildren of the young men and women that I work with are able to go back into the community and make a difference, whether it's positive relationships or helping grow communities, whatever the case may be. If the impact is felt generations down the line, that's when I'll truly feel like I was successful, and I know that I'll be able to recognize what that looks like when the time comes. So it's something I'm going to continue to chase for sure.
We certainly hope you do, London. And it's no doubt in my mind, based off of everything that you're talking about right now and the foundation of your human existence, you're going to be successful in creating a legacy of impact in a positive manner, and so many youths and so many adults and so many individuals. We can't thank you enough for the time. We're wrapping up on time, but I know you want to talk about people giving lacrosse a chance. Can you share a little bit more about that, or any last thoughts you have for our community?
Yeah, for sure. And there's definitely two instances that I can speak to this. I can speak to this to the minority community that completely has this notion of the sport of lacrosse that feels as though that's just something they don't play. And then I can speak to the community of those who are just so foreign to a sport that outside of what I look like, maybe I just may not have the funds to have access to participate in the sport like lacrosse. What I will say is that every day more and more opportunities are being created for youth to have access to the sport of lacrosse. So if and when there is an option and it is free or it is at a reduced rate, take advantage of it, because the sport of lacrosse can and will change your life. I've seen it happen numerous times. And the young men, even in my short existence and my experience, the young men and women who have used lacrosse to put them in a position to earn things, it's changed their life exponentially. So play the sport or try the sport. I'll give it that much.
I love those plugs, London. You're such an ambassador for the sport, and and for just trying on new opportunities. Thanks so much for sharing your story with our community today. We're going to be cheering you on and trying to support you however we can.
Thank you. Thank you.